Yo, what's up?
Yo, what's up people, how's it going? It's Saddymite here for another video game review. Today I'm looking at the new game from Bungie, Destiny. Bungie is of course best known for creating the Halo series, which I personally don't have a huge history with, mostly because I never owned the original Xbox. So to get some input from some Halo fanboys, I'll call on the two biggest Halo nerds I know in a bit. First though, I want to talk about what I thought.
Story.
Sadly the story in this game is very hard to digest. After having to search on Google, here's what I found out. A long time ago, which is actually in the future, a big orb thing came into our solar system. It shared with us knowledge to prolong our lifespan, how to make planets habitable, and how to expand our civilizations into other worlds. But this orb, known as the Traveler, forgot to mention that he has a couple sworn enemies, who decided to attack humanity and murder all of us. One city remains that the orb dude decided to sacrifice itself to protect, and it's up to you and the other random people online to reclaim the planets of the solar system and defeat the evil darkness. The story, plainly and simply, is horrible. It feels like Bungie first thought, we should make a new game, and force themselves to come up with a plot for a game, rather than having first an awesome idea and then building a game around it. Anything interesting in the story has been done before, and better. Of course the story will be compared to other sci-fi games like Mass Effect, but the plot of humanity on the brink of extinction from a galactic threat isn't really the most unique anyway. Case in point is the random stranger that shows up and seems like she's just there because there's a character like that in a bunch of good movies. Her character is so empty. There's no evolution or character development for her or anyone in the game. There's a location in this game that you go to that is only comprised of one long cutscene, which you can't ever go back to. You can't skip any cutscenes in the game either, so I sat there the entire time watching it, and I still have no idea what was happening in the plot. The only thing I noticed was that they said something along the lines of, if we need help, we'll call on you, which is quite obviously the setup for the next game. And following the story isn't made easy because you receive multiple story missions at once, and you can decide which order you play them in. That's fine, I enjoy the free choice, until I realized I completed the final story mission, where defeat the big bad guy, get the reward, hear the epic speech at the end with the trumpets blaring in the background, and there was still a mission to play that involved you questioning why are they all converging on the final place.
This isn't an invasion. The Vex are returning home. Something is calling them back to the Black Garden.
Probably because I was just there and killed their main boss. Missions are all exactly the same anyway. There are no escort missions, no grab something and evacuate missions, no epic cinematic mission where the world is being destroyed as you have to escape on your speeder bike. I'm not saying those are the most interesting of ideas, but I'm not kidding when I say that all the ones they came up with are exactly the same. Each mission involves you landing down on a planet, speeder biking somewhere, shooting a couple guys, pausing to get your ghost friend to figure out where you're going or getting him to activate something, and then going to an area where you have to fight a lot of enemies and a boss. There's really no variation at all. The locations as well are repeated at a lot at the beginning of missions, so you keep seeing the same places over and over and fighting the same enemies over and over, and it gets very boring and samey quick, even though the locations look nice themselves. But I'll talk about that later. The story, as I said, is incredibly hard to follow. Maybe because it lets you jump around missions, maybe because it's so numbing that you can't pay attention, but no matter what, this isn't a plot that you're going to remember or care about. They didn't try any twists or turns, they didn't push any boundaries, they never made the characters into more than just faces with voices. And that's incredibly disappointing, especially from a game coming from a developer like Bungie.
Sound.
Talking about faces with voices, I want to discuss one of the major flaws with this game, the voice acting. It is so unbelievably atrocious and is quite possibly the worst part about this game. Your main companion character is voiced by Peter Dinklage, who I obviously love in Game of Thrones, as we all do. He is a great actor on screen and film, but for this game, he just doesn't hit the right notes. He sounds so bland, so disinterested. He doesn't add any feelings to his words, and it's quite obvious he didn't know what he was doing.
The Vex share one mind, across 1 million units. That's why they react so fast.
It's not entirely his fault, however, as the script won't win any awards, and I'm sure a lot of the voice direction was terrible.
Looks like we're in the right place.
Why is the right place always so terrifying?
It sucks to be having a real moment connecting with the game and then Peter comes out and says something that just sounds jarring and weird. I'm not saying I'm a prize when it comes to voiceovers. This is only my second video, so you can hear how crap I am at reading off the script. But Peter's a well-trained actor with a lot of experience, and this is a game that had millions of dollars of funding pumped into it. They even got Paul McCartney to help compose music for this game, and it sounds great! I love the soundtrack in this game. No song really sticks out for me, unlike Mass Effect, but all the music fits well and it can be exciting or soothingly ambient. I am a fan of Peter Dinklage, but give this guy some help if it's one of his first voice acting roles. It probably is the worst part about this game. When there's a bad story, you can ignore it and still enjoy the game, but if you're constantly hearing people performing lines badly, it's easy to get distracted by it. Peter isn't the only bad voice actor in the game, so it wasn't a problem with just him. He just happened to be the one that you hear the most.
Gameplay.
The gameplay feels a lot like how you would expect a Bungie game to feel. The controls are smooth, it's easy to aim with the controller, the specials and skills make sense. It's simple enough to jump into with no prior knowledge. Shield charging, the motion sensor, and the weapons are all cookie-cutter Bungie. You can respawn almost anywhere as well, like Borderlands, unless you're in a designated darkness zone, where death means you have to restart from a checkpoint. Precision shots, as they're called, feel nice and rewarding when they make the enemy explode. There's a decent selection of weapons to acquire and use as well, though it's not quite as extensive as I would like it to be. It's the same with the vehicles. There's only your speeder bike, a speeder bike with the guns on it, and a tank type thing. Shops also feel pretty anemic when most of the stuff you can buy is way outside your level or price range. I also don't understand the different currencies you have to use. You earn Glimmer as your main currency, but they need stuff like Vanguard marks or Crucible marks for certain armor and weapons. I was told by the game that you get Vanguard marks by doing bounties, which I had done a lot of, but I still hadn't gotten any by the game's end. Crucible marks are probably earned by doing something in the multiplayer mode known as Crucible, but I can't really remember off the top of my head. I still hadn't gotten any by playing Crucible with the guys anyway. Multiplayer, by the way, is a huge part of this game. The game is always online, which I really hated with Diablo 3, so you run into people during your single player game. The main hub location in the game always has a lot of people in it. I didn't bother to put in my microphone, so I don't know if you can hear people, but you can interact with people by waving, saluting, and pointing, or dancing. During the game, you also see people running about and killing enemies. It's not separated at all, so you can kill the same enemies. I know multiple times I was working on a really high level enemy, using up a lot of ammo, when in the end amounted to nothing when some random guy just started sniping and stealing my kills. The darkness zones where you fight various bosses and enemy hordes don't have any public players in them, however, and the only way to bring anyone in there is to be in a party with them. You also have strike missions, which you fight strong bosses and play with other people, which you can't play unless you have PS Plus. I don't like all this online stuff. Always online messes with my game experience. I dislike playing with people because I start feeling self-conscious because I'm feeling ugly in my whitey-tighties, chilling out, and they totally know that I am. I can't pause the game to go to the bathroom or answer a phone call or anything, and you can get disconnected for nothing. I was trying to play at around 1 AM on one of the first days of release, and I couldn't get into my story mission because it just kept disconnecting. I didn't want to play with anyone else, I just wanted to do story mode. The problem with always online is that the game servers are never going to be enough and are always going to melt down at launch. And of course it's not economically feasible to buy a ton of servers since they won't be useful after the first surge of players. So the players are screwed if you try to play these games on launch. It also ruins the load times for me as well, which could last very long as it tries to connect me to servers. Same stuff happened with Diablo. I know it's completely random, but something like Phantasy Star has the correct idea where you can choose between persistent online or offline single player. I don't know why they don't allow that in these games. Other people just take me out of the game experience. When I want to enjoy a story game, I don't want to know other people are in there. I want to feel a sense of joy looking at a great location and get immersed without thinking that this guy is looking at me and I'm supposed to be manly and not care about scenery. This is likely just a problem with myself, but still a problem. Anyway, that's all the single player and multiplayer stuff I can think about. The competitive multiplayer in this game is called Crucible. There are different modes you can play, ranging from point capture and free-for-all deathmatch to stuff like 3v3 point capture and team deathmatch. The multiplayer feels extremely weird in the fact that you can use your weapons you acquire in-game along with your skills, but they don't actually have a major difference in damage in most Crucible modes, since it ignores your level. Which makes sense, you don't want to be like a level 10 guy who's getting destroyed by 25 just because he's a higher level than you. There are certain modes which take into account your level, but I didn't play any of those. But you just tend to die extremely easy in regular games, and it's usually whoever sees the other person first that gets the kill. It feels like it's unbalanced, but that's just because everyone is overpowered. I think it feels like Halo's multiplayer, but in Halo's you tend to live a lot longer. At least how I remember it.
Graphics.
The game looks great on PS4. I bought the PS4 bundle for Destiny, mostly because I just wanted a PS4 to be fair, but Destiny looked nice as well. The game doesn't have any outstanding problems with jagged lines or any other graphical errors, and it looks nice on this next-gen console. I've seen images of Destiny on PS3 and it looks really horrible, so I guess I made the right decision getting it on PS4. The locations in this game feel large because you have to zip around on your speeder bike, and the design of the locations aren't that bad. It isn't the most colorful, but it definitely isn't like mid-2000s Gears of War brown and gray filter. I like the environments put forth by Bungie in this, but I wish you didn't have to revisit the same places over and over.
Conclusion.
Before we get to my thoughts, let's hear what Casey and Kuna have to say about Destiny.
Alright, what is up everybody? Casey from Nuke Pixels here, bringing you my quick thoughts on Destiny. Because I, like most people into gaming, was super excited for Destiny. Bungie's been hyping it up for a couple years now. And I'm surprised to say, but this game was a complete, utter failure, complete letdown. I was a huge fan of the Halo franchise before Destiny, and I was expecting a really well-made, polished game, a nice little story, some good competitive multiplayer, and basically Bungie fucked everything up. The story is non-existent. The big vast world that you can explore with your friends that they promised, this big open world, it is completely sterile and lifeless. There's nothing in it. They made a big open world that you get on your little speed bike and drive by real as quick as you can because you want to get the fuck out of that world. It's so stupid and boring and dull and lifeless. And then the competitive multiplayer, they made it completely unbalanced by giving every single player 2 power weapons that they can pull out of their ass at any moment. It gives the game no legs at all. No legs, no one's going to play it after like an hour because it's not balanced. You're going to get shotgun or sniped every 15 seconds on the multiplayer. I don't understand what Bungie was doing with this game, but they failed in my eyes. I would give this game somewhere around like a 5 out of 10 or something like that. So thank you, Soundman, for letting me vent about Destiny and giving me this little opportunity. You're an asshole! Peace out.
Alright, my thoughts on the game. Graphically, it looks amazing. Great, one of the greatest games I've seen on the next generation consoles. Gameplay, it plays smooth, it's real fun to play. Feels a lot like Halo, but it's definitely good gameplay. The story on the other hand is dreadful. It is one of the worst stories I've ever played in any game. It's just like it's like they tried too hard to do it, you know? That really was very disappointing for me. I was coming into this looking for a good story, and it just did not even come close to doing that. So that story was definitely one of the most disappointing parts of the game. The multiplayer is very unbalanced, but that's somewhat to do with the loot-based system that they run on. So I'm not really holding faults against them on that. The loot, I do like the loot and the way the strikes are laid out and all the missions. The missions are a little repetitive. I would have liked to see a little bit more variety with those missions, but you know, it's still a fun game to play, and I'm hooked into this game. I want to get as much loot as I possibly can. So overall, it was a little disappointing, but I still enjoy it. I'm still having fun. So out of 10, I'm gonna give this game an 8.
Destiny isn't as good as Halo. It borrows a lot of its gameplay from it, and all those parts feel really enjoyable. However, the story is really bad, the voice acting is annoying, the fact that it's always online sucks, and missions, vehicles, and weapons aren't all varied enough. The game is popular through the sheer fact that it's by Bungie and had millions of dollars pumped into it. Destiny plays nicely, it's fun, but everything about it is just a letdown. It's not horrible, it's just disappointing in a lot of aspects. It's not as varied as the first Halo was, and if they had fleshed this game out more, I feel like it would have been so samey and more enjoyable. The gameplay is fun though, the music is nice, and I enjoyed playing it. If you would like FPS games to be more linked to multiplayer, you'll probably have a better time than I did with this. If you only care about the gameplay, feel free to pick this up as well, because you could do a lot worse. If however you want a game with a lot of depth beyond shooting enemies and doing competitive multiplayer, you will probably be disappointed like I was. I personally will be looking forward to a bounce back from Bungie and improvements in the inevitable sequel. Thanks for listening to this video review. If you enjoyed it, feel free to subscribe to Nuke Pixels and comment down below. If you have criticisms, I always look at it. This is only my second video review, so hopefully it was fine. But yeah, thanks for listening, and I'll see you later. And that's fine with me. I love retro games, obviously. The controls are nice, the dash function is good, and everything feels smooth. However, the level design is just plain boring. I ran into about 2 areas that at least mildly interested me. This one at the beginning where you have to dodge electricity.